when you're raised in what I now believe is a cult, you kind of are wired to think that no one else had this experience. And then when you see a film, you're like, oh my God, I really was not alone.
Welcome to Feeling Seen. I'm Jordan Crugiola. This week we've got Chris Stuckmann on the show, and over the past decade, Chris has become one of the most viewed creators of movie-related content on YouTube, where he has 2 million subscribers. More recently, he made the monumental shift from YouTube movie guy to writer-director of a feature film. Shelby Oaks was distributed by Neon and hit theaters last October, but now it is available to watch on VOD, and I will say that one really got under my skin. Shelby Oaks is a horror film and a mystery story about a woman named Mia who is looking for her long-since disappeared sister, a sister who happened to be an online creator herself. Chris documented the years of build-up to the film on his YouTube channel, and we are going to talk about that unique journey, but we are also going to talk about Chris's journey out of the Jehovah's Witness faith in which he was raised. Chris has brought a surprising pick to help that conversation along. A queer Canadian teen romance from 2022 called You Can Live Forever. But we'll kick things off with Chris Stuckmann talking about his feature debut, Shelby Oaks. Chris Stuckmann, what else do the people need to know about you before we get started here today?
Oh my God. Wow. Well, thanks for that intro. It made me feel very old.
I think you're a little younger than me, so don't even worry about it.
I've been around, I guess. No, that was really sweet. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you for being here and taking the time. It's been really lovely to see the subplot of this movie, like of people feeling like this sense of like pride and like joy in what feels like shared celebration of your success with this, because, you know, presumably they've maybe been on the online journey with you for a long time. It's been really nice to see the narrative of people being like, so excited for this guy, like, been watching his stuff for so long, like, I can't believe it's come to this. Like, how has that been, as somebody who is so aware of the internet discourse churn, to become a main character such as you are?
Wow. It can be overwhelming in a way that I've never predicted. I'm so grateful that folks have been supportive and that folks have, you know, shown excitement, and it's really it's mind-boggling for me, because I've lived in a space. I think you might understand this. When you create a lot on the internet, you're kind of secluded a little bit. You know, you kind of you film or you record mostly alone, maybe with like one other person. You know, in your case, you have a person that helps you with your podcast, but like you're mostly alone in your own space, and you're editing by yourself, and you're releasing it, and you're still by yourself. And it's like, when you actually start meeting folks and they look you in the eye and they're like, oh, like, I love this thing you do, or whatever. It really is surreal. It's just not something I can't even fully quantify it.
It's
actually
crazy when you make things that you know other people are going to hear, and then you see somebody in real life who confirms to you that somebody actually listens. You're like, really? You heard that thing? It's like, well, of course somebody was supposed to hear it, but I can't believe you really did.
Yeah, it's really crazy, because I'm kind of wired to be. I'm just in this space of like, I'm kind of doing my own thing in my head. You know what I mean? And like when you like you said, when you go out and you meet folks or people come up to you, it really does. It is a wonderful reminder of like, oh, wait a second, like I am having some kind of an impact, and that's good. That's good.
Well, that I think that gets at the notion of impact. The film choice that you have brought for us today, I did not know of this movie. This was my first time watching it. It immediately became one of my favorite queer coming of age movies I think I've ever seen. You Can Live Forever.
How come you're hiding out here? I thought we'd be leaving right away. The sisters like to visit after the meeting. They really like to chat. I'm Marika.
Do I call you Sister Marika?
Sounds weird when you say it.
Feels weird to say.
Was it your first meeting?
No, I used to come a couple times when I was a kid, but my parents...
They're not in the truth.
No.
This is, at first blush, if someone's not familiar with the annals of your documenting films in your life career online, it's like, Chris Stuckmann, the writer and director of Shelby Oaks, what's the bridge between you and these young lesbian Jehovah Witnesses in Canada in 1991? But there is actually quite a beautiful bridge between you and this film, and I would love to hear you tell us about it.
Yeah, no, I was raised Jehovah's Witness, and that's my life. My life is, and I realized that I was queer later in life, but there was definitely a lot of moments when I was young and still in that faith where I had thoughts that felt like they were not entirely normal for what I was raised to believe was normal. Do you know what I mean? The Jehovah's Witnesses are very, very homophobic, and they're very much so against anything that isn't the straight path, shall we say. And there's a lot of hardship for anyone that is feeling like they aren't entirely like everyone else when you're a Jehovah's Witness. And there's a lot of stakes to that. They have complete control over your life and where you will go and whether or not you'll talk to your friends and family ever again. And these types of situations are very rarely reflected in media, because I think it takes someone who was a Jehovah's Witness to truly understand what that feeling is. And this film was directed by two people, Mark Slutsky and Sarah Watts. Sarah, who I spoke to a lot, actually, she was raised witness. Mark was not. And so Sarah's sort of view of this story, it was so important. And this notion of, because what the film is about is essentially two lesbian women. One of them is a devout Jehovah's Witness. The other is kind of just visiting and kind of falling for this girl, but not really understanding the limitations that she lives under. And, without getting into spoilers, like, the film is also about this devout witness discovering they're queer, but then having to sort of still operate in this world they were raised in just so they can keep their family and friends, and because they don't know any other way around it.
Have you ever been to Europe?
No, but my mom did once. She brought back tons of pictures.
Where is your mom?
She's not in the truth anymore.
Do you ever see her?
Not since I was 6.
Really?
We're supposed to imagine that she's dead.
It's an incredible dissonance that this character sincerely maintains, Marika, where, like, with equal conviction on both sides, you can see her. She's an initiator. She is not a shrinking violet away from the feelings that she's having for this other girl, Jamie. But at the same time, the way she speaks of her faith and the way she speaks of paradise and the way she speaks of the oncoming new system, they are both conveyed with equal sincerity. And it is fascinating to watch this character so completely in the thrall of both of these parts of herself, and so certain that she can reconcile both and that she can find a way to thread this needle.
Yeah. And that's the tough thing, is it's like for people who are raised there, you do have this extremely concrete, it feels like the belief system is in your DNA. It's so real to you that you're told from childhood that you are part of the only true religion, and that you are literally the only religion that will survive Armageddon. And if you don't do things in the right way, your entire life will just be for naught. And so there are very few films that, obviously these are women and I'm a man, but like still, there are very few films that presented that world to me that felt so familiar and so right. And so, like, yes, that is exactly what it feels like to be kind of trapped there.
So what, like, I watch a lot of movies. I try to watch as much queer cinema as I can. Like, what... I don't feel like I've watched this ground trodden of what we see in You Can Live Forever so much. So what was it like for you initially taking that in?
I think anytime you see something that, especially for an ex-Jehovah's Witness, it's so, I think there maybe are 2 or 3 movies in that space, in the Jehovah's Witness space. And it really is because people just don't really know about what goes on behind closed doors there. I very much want to make a movie about them one day. It's a big goal of mine. I've got a script ready. I'm dying to make it.
Are you trying to convert me?
Not unless you want me to.
So you really believe in this Armageddon stuff, huh?
What stuff?
That you'll all live forever and have wild animals as your pets?
It's not going to be the end of the world like you think. It's more like a renewal.
What about all the fire and brimstone stuff?
There'll be war and famine, disease.
All that's already happened, though.
Exactly. It's just another sign that this whole system of things is coming to an end.
When you're raised in what I now believe is a cult, you kind of are wired to think that no one else had this experience.
Right.
And then when you see a film, you're like, oh my God, I really was not alone, you know? And that was a very powerful feeling.
Well, and I was listening to your podcast pre-production, and in the ones that I was going through, and an array of different filmmakers, and I feel like I noticed you returning often. It's called pre-production. Like you're talking to people about their inspirations. You're talking about the process leading up to how did you get to this thing, and asking people like what was the movie that got you into films. And I noticed too a sort of recurring return to what it costs to do this job.
Yeah.
Like what you give up, what you have to commit, the grind you have to be on, the relentlessness, we talk a lot on this podcast about like almost level of healthy, unhealthy delusion you almost have to be possessed of in order to be like, no, it's going to work and I'm gonna keep at it. And I wanted to hear from you about that as like a recurring conversation topic that you were drawn to with people as someone who knows so intimately what it is to give up in order to pursue this thing that like you don't give up unless it's a need. Like unless this thing, this movies and making them and art and expression, it's like a need. You don't do it as like a hobby if you're going to give up maybe a whole life behind you.
Yeah, totally. I think it's because I did give up all of my friends and family, half my family when I left that religion. And there was a lot of discussion with me while I was there about like, you need to stop making movies and you need to stop watching the movies you're making. Because I was making short films at the time, and, some of the elders at the congregation saw them and they're like, oh, there's violence in these movies, and, you're going down a dark path. And giving all of, when you leave, like you really are cut off, like you truly are like shunned completely. And so I had friends that I saw 3 or 4 times a week that I've never seen again ever since. And it's a very, very strange, it's terrifying too, especially I was in my early 20s. And so
I know it's been a while, but I'm sorry. No,
I appreciate
really
that.
hard. I'm really sorry.
I appreciate that. And it's the type of thing where it's like, you are restarting your life. You are like, you're back to zero, and now you're just like, where do I go from here? And I think in regards to like getting a film off the ground, it's 2 things. It's a word they're 2 words that sound very similar: arrogance and ignorance.
No, that's a great recurring conversation on this show of like, especially that first feature where like, so often like there's a breakout movie and like the part of the press tour is like, how did you pull off this thing? And so often the answer from filmmakers is, I didn't know I wasn't supposed to try.
Yeah, right. Yeah. And so it's the arrogance comes in when I was a kid and I'm like in 3rd grade and I start writing stories because I love Goosebumps books, and I'm like, oh yeah, I've got something to say, and I'm going to say this, and it's going to be this. And then the ignorance is like just thinking you can, and that it'll be easy. And you're like realizing over the years, oh my God, like there is nothing but roadblocks, nothing but roadblocks. And it's like this constant level. It's like you're in it. I don't know if you've ever seen like videos of like those Olympic runners who are like doing hurdle after hurdle after hurdle, and their legs are just going like vroom, vroom, vroom. Like it feels like you are in this constant race filled with things that you have to surmount, over and over again. And that's the ignorance that comes in when you're younger and you're like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do. And I do think like, because I realized that when I was 14 that I wanted to make movies, and I'm 37 now. And I do wonder if I had known like how long it would take to get one officially released, if I would have had, if there's part of that 14-year-old kid who was raised in a working class family, if he might have looked around and been like, that seems really hard.
Yeah. Wow, the margin for failure here is like so high, and I'm guaranteed nothing in return. And
Yeah.
it is like, because like, the sort of like, oh, it's my baby. Like people talk about a book or a movie they make, but like I think my favorite part of like the sort of birth comparison to creating something like this is like I feel like so often like I've asked like women in my life who I've known have had babies like okay, so birth, like what's it really like? And so often I feel like I've gotten the answer of like, you just kind of get through it, like a sort of like it's almost like this Men in Black like mind wipe thing happens because like your body has to forget, like you have to protect yourself from the reality of what it's like to get a person out in the world, so that you're willing to do it again. And it's like I feel like going into if people had the scales fell from their eyes and before like going into making their shorts and getting off the ground, it's like, hey, let me tell you absolutely everything about what it actually takes to make a movie. I feel like you would just pick those scales up and put them right back on and be like, nope, not me. I'm different. I'm different.
Yeah, it takes a lot of persistence, and it's also that you do need to have some kind of relentless, almost insane drive to just want to tell stories. I mean, like I talk with Mike Flanagan about this a lot, and because he produced our film, and
one of the most nice people to talk to. My God,
great guy, really great guy, and just a good person. And he's released movies and TV shows for the past 11 years since Oculus came out in 2014, and he tells me, he's like, look, every single time I do it, it's always nerve-wracking. I'm always nervous. There's a lot of anxiety, and then I immediately want to do it again. And so it's tough because it's like you're battling with this sense of like, I love telling stories, but also this is a tough career, and it's like really hard to actually be sustainable monetarily, Like most of the indie filmmakers out there that I know are very much so struggling with finances.
1,000% yes.
Yeah.
1,000% yes.
It's not easy.
The
It's
thing
not
that's
an
like
easy
keeping
world.
most of them is like they do commercial work on the side.
Yes,
like they're
yes.
still doing agency work kind of thing. And
Yes.
who is it, like Mike Lee? Doesn't he still like do like advertising or agency work? I feel like he has like a capitalist career alongside being like a generational filmmaking talent that keeps him able to do this.
Yeah, no, it's very common. I have friends who do commercials too, and I've also talked to some folks here in Ohio at places that shoot commercials just because I have kids and, they got to eat.
I feel like we should note too that Shelby Oaks the initial funding for Shelby Oaks came via Kickstarter. And I think at least to date at that time, and it could still be so, the highest funded film project in his Kickstarter history at
Highest
that time.
funded horror film. Yeah.
And I think your original goal was like 250,000 and you blasted through that to like 1.5 million.
It was a pretty crazy time. I remember setting that 250 goal and thinking like this movie could be made. A version of this movie could be made for that, and we can accept that.
Right.
And we got that in a day. In one day, we got that 250. And we had a whole other month, and so
did you just pass out? Like when you saw that ticking up, or did you just like fall over?
I was eating pizza with my wife at a pizza parlor, and we were definitely very overwhelmed. And I'll say, even raising what we raised, we were still very tight. I mean, that's a lot of money for like a person,
sure,
but not a lot of money for a movie.
Well, as I understand it, once it was picked up by Neon provided additional fund for like additional filming to essentially like complete the script as you had more originally conceived it. So this is like it made it as far as it could on that. But even at a 1.5 million, tough choices had to be made to be like,
sure,
all right, this is what's on paper versus this is what's going to get made. And I feel like I really appreciated recently. I saw like a sort of quote going around from you of saying like, because man, you've been reviewing movies on the internet for years, talking about a lack of interest at this point in being really negatively critical of movies. And part of that be like, life changes, we grow up, etc. But part of that being like, I'd made a movie and I saw what went into doing that. And I appreciated hearing that, because the more and more I'm involved with making things, the more mystifying it becomes to me, honestly. Like, the more I see what it takes, it doesn't become like, oh, I get how that happens and that happens. It makes every movie feel even more like a miracle than I had ever imagined.
Oh, 100%. No, I mean, I have such a respect level for anyone who gets anything made. It doesn't matter if I liked it or not. It's so hard to go through. So, because we all, as film watchers, and I am a massive movie fan, obviously, and I still go to the movies for everything, and I will obviously continue to. But as film watchers, we get the best part of it. We get to just kind of sit there and we have our popcorn or whatever, and we just watch it. And there's no pressure. And when you like, I'm about to go see Del Toro's Frankenstein, and like, I'm so excited to see what he's done with this, but like, I couldn't even imagine, his journey towards getting Frankenstein on the screen, and how long it's taken for him to get that made, and all the ups and downs he's gone through. And I have this immediate empathy with all filmmakers, but especially indie filmmakers, because indie filmmakers make movies without a safety net. We don't have guarantee of distribution while we're shooting the movie. We don't know where it'll end up. And right now we're in a space where it is very, very difficult. And I mean this more so than people even realize. There's not enough writing out there about this right now. It's not a lot of films sold at Sundance this year. There's a lot of indie films that are just kind of sitting, even getting into massive festivals like Sundance. And it's really, really tough out there right now.
I was watching, in your older videos talking about like leaving the witness community that you grew up in, and talking about a time where your sort of first iteration of posting stuff online, music review, quick movie reviews, quick film reviews, and the period where you received too much blowback internally in your community, and there were clear repercussions if you continued, so you had to stop. And you like posted a video being like, I'm so sorry guys, like I'm gonna have to like cut this off. But then you came back to it like a couple months down the line, and it's like you said, like 6 months later, like you picked it back up again. And that interim time you spoke about on your show, like I guess podcast, what we'll call everything now, about that being just a dark period of time. Like what the absence of film and communicating about film and being within the community of film was a real emotional low. So I wanted to like ask, in the context of that, when you're making that crowdfunded feature, this many people have given you $1.5 million to say, I believe in you. What it took from like the beginning of your arc to where you were in that point of it is like a seismic transformation of who you are, and essentially like what you put on the line to do it. And I wanted to hear about just like the feeling of shooting something like a feature when it comes with that kind of triumph and perhaps that kind of melancholy at the same time.
I think for me, coming to set on that first day felt like coming home, because I had spent so many years as a kid shooting movies with my friends, and I always viewed them as like very serious, like it was like they were all planned, and we had like storyboards and stuff, and we were running around wearing rubber creature suits and being teenagers, but like we took it very seriously. And so getting to go on a real film set and working with so many incredible, talented people that cared so much about their departments, the DP, the costume designer, the props, everything. It just felt so right. It felt so right. Shooting, I think, is maybe my favorite. Shooting the movie and then probably the sound mix are my two favorite parts of production.
Why sound mix? What is it about that? So, I mean, working in genre, I feel like that's like an extra special playground. But what is it about that specifically that appeals to you?
At that point in the production, the film is edited and the cut is locked, and so the edit, and you're getting to see it really come alive in sound, because you know what it looks like now, but until you watch a movie without finished sound and then with finished sound, it's so hard to communicate how important that is. It's mind-boggling to see a film, like any film that we love. If you wanted to go back and watch like Alien without sound, without finished sound, it would probably be, just different.
One of my favorite things
and
to cover over the years of what back when I worked at journalism, even when I worked at Vulture, was Foley artistry.
Yeah.
It is honestly like the most fun single topic I think in film production to write about. And
Yeah.
like the life that comes, like thinking about, like, was it that in Midsommar when the mallet goes down on the human skull, it's like a guy who had a pig head in a freezer and he used that same pig head to make the sound of a falling rolling head in The Dead Don't Die. Like, there are people living with pig heads in their freezers out there just in case they need them to make your movie viewing experience feel as rich as it should.
Yeah, no, it's very true. I went into the Foley room at our sound mix place at Urban Post, and there were like bicycles and metal bars and AstroTurf and dirt and all kind. It was just like a play place filled with things that they could bang around. But no, I mean that's like when you're putting the finishing touches, the sound, and also you're putting the score in at that point. And so you're really seeing how the music is being utilized too.
Why, like, I mean, I guess, like, was it just with how much you've made over the years, what was it that made Shelby Oaks the one that was farthest along to where it was like, we're going to do the Kickstarter thing? Because you kind of get, like, I feel like the sort of conventional wisdom about, like, crowdfunding is, like, you kind of get your one ask. Like, you get your one shot. And it's like, okay, I'm going to go the crowdfunding route and we're going to do it with Shelby Oaks. What was it about that one that made it the thing that, like, everything, stars aligned into it? Perhaps the drive was there the most. Like, why Shelby Oaks?
I had written about 6 or 7 specs at that point.
I figured you had a grip on hand. So yeah.
Yeah. And Shelby was the one that kept getting heat when I would get lucky enough to talk to a producer. It was the one that just kept moving forward to the point where I was like, okay, this is clearly the one that has the most interest. And once I did get a producer attached, Aaron Kuntz, in 2019, we were storyboarding the movie and we had written like multiple drafts and it was like getting close and we kind of just stood around and were like, we don't have enough money.
Here it is.
It became a thing where it was like, if I can make the Kickstarter campaign and the experience for the backers feel like a great experience for them, not just about like, please give us this amount of money and you will get this merchandise. It wasn't like that. It was like, come on this journey with me. Here's BTS of us shooting the movie. Here's long 30 to 40 minute episodes weekly of us making this so you guys can like be involved. And that was the idea, was don't make it be a please give us money thing.
Yeah.
It was like, hey, come on this ride with me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, thinking about You Can Live Forever and hearing you talk about it in your sort of special posts that you did about like your experience, like leaving the Jehovah's Witnesses, but then also just the review of it that you did, like a small, like 6-minute video being like, hey, this movie's really good. You talked in it about like a kind of almost like euphoric feeling that you experienced in watching this thing and knowing film could be kind of the reprieve or salvation that it was for you when you were in this very enclosed space, very exclusive space, not in like an exciting way. And then to watch something that could hit you so much in You Can Live Forever, like going from different periods in your life of like 14 and starting to making short films and getting obsessed with this stuff to like being in your 30s and watching this movie about like teenage lesbians in a Jehovah's Witness community. There is you have a documented history of like, this is what the power of this stuff does. And I wanted to hear from you about just like sort of what you've realized as a maker and a critic and someone with this unique life experience who has felt the impact of what seeing oneself on a screen can do or seeing a possibility model on screen can do. And I just wanted to hear from you about your experience of that evolution of like how a story on screen can pull you through something or do like change you.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like film has always kind of been my therapy, like over the years, ever since being a kid. There's this sense of like the movies are kind of my religion in a way. And like I say the movies are my religion. The theater is my church. And when I go there, it is like a sacred space. You know, it feels very spiritual to me. You know, it's like the closest I can get anymore to feeling that way. And I have been transformed as a person by film for my entire life, whether it's like those initial movies as a kid that I saw that made me want to make movies, or it's films over the years that made me look at the process of filmmaking differently, and discussing movies with friends and online to kind of like try to get into the headspace of the filmmaker. And it's been a long process of that over the years, of just being like, okay, I'm learning more about myself through watching other stories. Roger Ebert called movies empathy machines. That you would go to a film and watch strangers, most of the time fictional strangers, go through things and then feel something as a result. And hopefully you're learning about other cultures and other people and other hardships and other life experiences that are making you, it's funny because I've traveled so much on this press tour, but I'm not a big traveler. But in movies, I feel like I travel everywhere.
Right.
I feel like I'm seeing all these little pockets of the world and all different types of stories.
There's a term that comes up in You Can Live Forever that I've heard you reference as well, and you're talking about your experiences in the church community of the worldly people.
Yeah.
And that as it's not a compliment, like not, oh, she's so worldly, like she's worldly. And that's something to be suspicious of.
An outsider.
Frank called.
He's concerned.
About.
Look, I know this is going to sound funny, but he's worried about your influence.
My influence?
You're worldly.
You know we don't celebrate birthdays.
Is this about the cake?
It feels like how you're talking about movies, like I feel like it feels like movies are almost kind of like definitionally and like an item of the worldly. Like they themselves like embody a worldliness that feels dangerous.
That's right. Yeah. That's right. And that's one of the biggest reasons why they were the elders were so concerned about me getting involved with them, is that, and I guess they were right, but like,
not broken clock. Okay.
Yeah.
Like
I'm glad they were right. No, like I'm glad that they were right, that it would take me away from that place.
It's time for a break, but I will be back with Chris, and then at the end I will have one quick thing before I go about a horror movie that just had its Sundance debut that really got into the core of my being. It is called The Undertone, and I want to make sure and put it on your radar if it's not there already, so stick around.
Sleep is important, but it's difficult sometimes. I'm John Moe. On Sleeping with Celebrities, famous people help conk you out by talking in soothing voices about unimportant things. Maria Bamford on parking.
I parked in a bus stop. That's just not right. I am not a bus.
Roxanne Gay on airports.
My favorite airport is Indianapolis. It has a really smart layout.
Alan Tudyk on yardsticks.
You hand somebody a yardstick, yardsticks become part of the family.
Granted, it's a weird idea, but it's lots of fun, and it works. Listen wherever you get podcasts.
Hey, it's Sue the subway train. Hey, guess what, Sue? I just inherited a game show, and I have to continue it because there are people out there who like to curl up into a ball and listen to it. Yeah, it's a podcast where listeners submit game show ideas for others to play on air. Well, it is. In fact, the dumber the better. Right. It's called Dr. Game Show. Some curled up balls consider it a tradition, while others call it a train wreck. No, not you, Sue. It's Dr. Game Show. If you're the sort that likes to listen to people competing for refrigerator magnets, then curl up into a ball and listen to Dr. Game Show every other Wednesday, MaximumFun.org.
Something that I really wanted to ask you about in watching like some of your old YouTube stuff. There was a point, it was like you're celebrating 100,000 subscribers and you're talking through like, hey guys, like my story so far kind of thing. And you talked about kind of like the initial launching point, what got you traction when you were really starting to build your channel was a couple of like kind of negative screeds about a few movies you really did not like. and that those getting kind of like circulated around, sort of virality and what it would have been at the time, and that like brought you like a kind of bulk, like thousands of new people on your page, and that kind of gets a ball rolling. It brings you to a point where like then you have 100,000, you work your way up to 2 million and 2 million and change. I just wanted to know what the experience was like and how you factored it into, as somebody who writes movies and who is among the arts and is commenting on the arts and is meeting their peers among the arts eventually. What's it like to get such positive reinforcement for negativity?
Great question, Jordan. I think that feels like a whole nother world to me. Like that was I was still a Jehovah's Witness at that time.
Oh shit,
you
yeah.
know, when my channel started. I was still living with my parents. I was sitting on my bed making videos at the time. You know, it really does feel, obviously I wasn't a dad. My entire worldview has changed since then. And I think that we're going to see that more and more over the years, because people like me were kind of that first generation that adopted YouTube, you know?
Yeah,
and
I feel like a key to the success you've had is like, you got in there on the ground. Like when people were looking for the kind of thing you were doing, they might not even known they were looking for it, but there you were. And then other people who might have started searching for it, like, this guy Chris is here already. I didn't know people were doing this. A pioneer.
Thanks. And so you're going to see a lot more people who like literally did YouTube's motto, broadcast yourself.
Yeah.
Like who broadcasted themselves from a young age into adulthood, who will in the next 5 or 10 years, you're going to see them creating things out there, making stuff. It's already happening.
Yeah,
I'm not the first. And so that's the thing is like, I would be very curious if something like YouTube existed in the 80s or the 70s, and folks like some of our most iconic filmmakers now, like what would they have been posting? What would they have been saying online? And that's why I think it's very important now for people to be very careful about that type of thing, because we do live in a very like, oh, well, what did I have for breakfast? Here's a picture of my breakfast. Like, it's like everything.
The good old days of Instagram.
You know, it's like we don't need to say everything. We're allowed to have moments for ourselves, you know?
I just wanted to talk about You Can Live Forever as a queer movie, because, guys, this is some good shit. Like, there is... Because, you know, the canonically queer experience of longing, I feel like a part of the fabric of our broad community, really that more than most. But there is a part in this movie where the two girls, like, they've had a sleepover, very chaste, but like one of them wakes up in the morning and the other one is wearing her glasses. Marika is wearing Jamie's glasses, and she takes them off herself and like puts them back on Jamie.
You fell asleep with these on. Come over for dinner tonight?
Again?
Yeah.
Are you getting sick of me?
I don't think that's possible.
I started crying. Like, it was just such, like, it made my heart so full just to move like that. Because that, to me, like, that's, like, movies are Fast 7. Like, I love spectacle shit. And I love action movies. But, God, what movies can put in front of you with just the little business of humanity and what it can do for you to make you feel so like understood, or like the human condition is being honestly given to you in front of you. And I just wanted to hear from you as a film fan about the little touches that really make it sing for you.
I think that stillness in film is something I really miss. I think that watching characters think and sort of have feelings and emote without necessarily speaking is something I miss very much so in movies. And there's a lot of that, not just in You Can Live Forever, but in Shelby Oaks as well. There's quite a bit of watching Mia process and kind of being with her in dialogue-less scenes.
Yeah.
Where you're sort of like experiencing her journey. And it's the same with You Can Live Forever, where so much of, I think, that sort of religious fear and that doubt that some of these characters are feeling in the film are things that they're afraid to admit out loud. And so you are watching them kind of process all of that on their face, which is really beautiful.
Did you like working with a horror in the horror medium? Do you feel the pull to push through that stillness and go bigger, or was that something you felt a sense of like calmness and sort of certainty and like, no, we're gonna hang in the stillness, it's okay, like we don't have to crash, we don't have to bang, like
no, that was definitely the idea, was trying to make something that feels more unsettling and eerie and mysterious than necessarily beating you over the head with the sound design and stuff. There's some jumps in the movie, some jump scares, but I would say there's more scenes where we've removed the musical sting and just let something be there on the screen for people to kind of go like, oh, and the hope is that that stillness and that silence is something that allows people to lean in and kind of enjoy the dread and the anxiety of it a little more, the tension built.
Coming to the place that you have in your career is sort of at points a sort of testimonial of defiance. Like you defied a community that wanted to keep you caged. You were sort of put back in a box and you broke out of it again. And then you go into this career where it's constantly, like you said, having to overcome a hurdle over and over and over again. And I wanted to hear from you what having a feature under your belt, I'm like, God, I fucking did it. And Neon bought it. What sort of path of possibility this plateau of achievement makes you feel like it springboards you toward, that perhaps like now at a higher threshold, like you can see further out onto the horizon and what the horizon can look like for you when you were being told not to ever imagine at a certain point in your life.
Man,
Take your time on that one.
No, that's a
simple question.
That's very deep and it's very true. I really felt everything you said very much. It's been a very, like you were saying, a long series of hurdles. And, now like I'm getting scripts sent to me for my interest.
Crazy.
Like, people are saying like, hey, we'd like you to make this. And I get to like sit back and read stuff. And and some of my scripts that I've written over the years are being sent around to some of these places, and there's been some excitement. And so it feels like right now my goal is I want to be back on set so bad shooting something. I'm so excited to get back on set to make a movie, but I also want to make sure...
Mike Flanagan was right. The man who can't stop working was right.
Yep. But I also want to make sure that what I choose doesn't further box me in, meaning like I wouldn't want to make another movie like Shelby. I would want to make something a little different. And so I'm very inspired by some of my filmmaking heroes like an M. Night Shyamalan or a Spielberg who, Shyamalan has existed kind of in the genre space, but his films do feel different and personal, and they all kind of evolve.
He's a genre unto himself, M. Night Shyamalan.
Yeah. And like with Spielberg, like his early films are also very different. And I just love this idea of like, let's try to find something that feels unique to me, that's personal, but that isn't like the exact same thing again, and just to try to bring a little more of my personality into it. And I'm just really excited about the future.
Well, I can't do better than being excited about the future. I thank you so much for you've spent a lot of your time in life sitting in front of screens and recording, and I appreciate you taking the time to do so a little more with us here today. So thank you so much for coming on, Chris, and congratulations on Shelby Oaks.
Thank you so much.
Fucking scary.
Good. I'm happy to hear it.
Thank you so much.
Absolutely. It was great talking to you.
Thank you so much again to Chris Stuckmann for that very generous conversation. We recorded this one a while back, and now Shelby Oaks has made it from big screen to whatever VOD platform you prefer, so you don't have to wait to check it out for yourself. And like I said, I had a lot of fun with that one, so I'm recommending it. Get out there, and we will also be linking to Chris's massive YouTube channel in the show notes, as well as to his podcast, Pre-Production. And if you're curious about You Can Live Forever, which is really so good, I highly recommend. Please do check this movie out. I'm so happy that Chris brought it to the conversation here because I had never heard of it before. This is a great discovery. It is waiting for you there on trusty old Tubi, so it's waiting for free. And now that one quick thing before I go, I won't harp on it because, like overly harp on it. Obviously, I will a little because it's the one quick thing. And here we are. But the movie Undertone has crept forward in its festival run. It just played at the Sundance Film Festival, where I saw reviews pouring in of it absolutely freaking people the hell out. The Undertone is, I'm going to call it the first great podcast horror movie. If you think of, it's podcast, it's an audio medium. So this movie based upon two people making a podcast about a sort of creepypasta that starts winding its way into their lives and consciousnesses, particularly our main character. You would expect a movie of that premise to have a very affecting oral audio, sound, noise, sound design, landscape. And let me friggin' tell you guys, I have not stayed so afraid of a movie in a long time. I couldn't tell you when the last time was. It's about a woman who is, she's left the apartment she shares with her boyfriend. She's living back at home with her mother who is sick, who is dying. She is catatonic, and it is up to her daughter to care for her, clean her, look after her. And in this, in her home, presumably this used to be her home, and now it's this sort of mausoleum to an almost dead woman. And our lead character is essentially fully isolated with her mother. We really don't see her in person with anyone else. And the only one she really talks to is a friend of hers who lives across the ocean. I think he's in London, and they have a podcast together where they talk about spooky, creepy things. And they are sent an email with a series of sound files saying, like, this is crazy. Like, you have to listen to this. And so they resolve to listen to all of the files that they get as they record, and they're going to sort of play them for the listeners and walk through what they think is happening, sort of narrate the experience of what the hell is going on in these files. Oh man, it's so simple. It's so cleanly executed. And my God, I was so scared when the lights came up. Honest to God right now. When the lights came up, I was like tangibly afraid that I was going to open the door to the screening room, like to go out in the hall, and that it wasn't going to put me in the screening room, that it was going to be like some hell loop where I was going to be stuck in this room, and that actually I was cursed and damned, and I was never going to be able to get out of this room again. I was crawling inside of my clothes. I'm not a cover my face in a horror movies person, but I was obscuring my face. It's really good. It's really good, The Undertone. And in honor of talking about another spooky movie, Shelby Oaks, I'm very excited to plug this one coming this year from A24. So keep your eyes out for The Undertone. I really can't recommend it enough. And that, with the horror double there, is our show. You can keep up with us wherever you get your podcasts. You can follow us wherever you are listening. Do it to get a new episode in your feed as it drops. Follow. Do so also on Instagram at Feeling Seen Pod. Look us up on YouTube, where we are getting the backlog up of audio files that we have, and soon to come more video. We're also on Blue Sky, where you can search Feeling Seen or me, Jorcru, Jorcru, where I also remain on Twitter. Our theme music is by Andrew Epen. Our producer is Marissa Flaxbart. Our senior producers are Kevin Ferguson and Laura Swisher, and this is a production of Maximum Fun.
Maximum Fun,
a worker-owned network
of artist-owned shows,
supported directly by you.